Many people know that the wisest man who ever lived was who? Solomon. You guys were so quick. I like it. But many people look at that story and actually miss a key thing. Many people believe that Solomon asked for wisdom. But let's actually go to our Bibles to discover something else. Go to 1 Kings chapter 3. 1 Kings chapter 3. Made a treaty with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married Pharaoh's daughter, that he brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. When we had that day of prayer, that service of prayer, I talked about how Solomon dedicated the temple. Remember when he built it? He dedicated the temple. And so it mentions this here. But, you know, in a political figure, you sometimes would create alliances with other nations by making a marriage treaty. So sometimes they would get married not only because of love, but sometimes it wouldn't be about love. It would be because they want to create alliances. So he made an alliance with Egypt and married Pharaoh's daughter. Verse 2. Meanwhile, the people sacrificed at the high places because there was no house built for the name of the Lord until those days. So because there was no temple, people would do sacrifices in like places that were like hills or high places. And remember, now Solomon wants to build that temple. And Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of his father David, except that he sacrificed and burnt incense at the high places. Now, the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. Just like the last time I talked to you guys, you know, Solomon likes to go all out, making a whole bunch of sacrifices, 1,000. And so it says here, that he makes 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. Now, this is what the part I want you to catch. While he was there, after the big sacrifices, just like similar to my last message, well, not the last one, but a couple messages ago where I talked about that day of prayer, just like how he made thousands upon thousands of sacrifices, but then God appeared personally. Once again, Solomon went all out to make 1,000 sacrifices, but then God decides to appear to him personally in a dream by night. And God said, ask, what shall I give you? What do you want? And Solomon said, you have shown great mercy to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in truth, in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with you. You have continued this great kindness for him, and you have given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. You've done good by my father, and now you've allowed me to be king. Now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king instead of my father David. But I am a little child. That's how he viewed himself. He was a young man, but in his mind, he felt like he was a little kid. I do not know how to go out or come in. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't even know how to move around. I don't know how to go out or go in. I don't know what to do. I mentioned this because we have new officers leading ministries. We have people that are in the teams. Every single person here, we're asking you to join one of the teams. And you might say to yourself, I have no clue what to do. That's what Solomon said. Solomon said, yeah, I'm king, thank you, but I have no clue what to do. I don't even know how to go in and out. Exaggerating a little bit, right? Of course, somebody knows how to go in and out of a room, but in his mind, he's like, I feel paralyzed. I have no clue what to do. I don't know how this works and everything. I appreciate the kindness, but what do you want from me? I don't know how to go out or in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. You've given me this big responsibility. I'm supposed to be the king over all these thousands of people. I can't even count the number of people. I don't know how to go out and in. I don't know what to do. Therefore, this is the big request. This is a story that we like to tell the children. When God spoke to Solomon, what did he ask for? He didn't ask for riches. He asked for wisdom. But that is not the story that we read here. Pay attention now. Therefore, give to your servant an understanding heart. This book of 1 Kings doesn't use the word wisdom like we like to tell the children when we tell this story. It says, give me an understanding heart. What's the difference? What's the difference here? This word the English word understanding comes from the Hebrew word sama. Sama. And a better translation for that word would mean listening. I want you to pay attention to that now. What Solomon asks for when the Lord appeared to him and says, ask what I shall give you. So God tells Solomon, you're the king now. Ask what you want. You know, I watched the movie Aladdin. And the cool thing about that movie is that Aladdin finds a lamp and he rubs that lamp and the genie comes out 6,000 years. And he tells Aladdin that you can make a wish. Make 3 wishes, actually. People always say, why couldn't he just wish for more wishes, right? But genie actually says you can't do that. And then Aladdin wastes his wishes for the most part and everything. And people always like to speculate. If you had a wish, what would you wish for? Aladdin wished for love. Basically, all 3 of his wishes were basically asking for that. Some people would ask for $1 billion. What would you wish for? Some people would wish for maybe somebody that has died to come back to life. Some people may wish for different things. Solomon was given an opportunity, very rare. God appears to him in a dream and says, go ahead and ask me for what you want. And Solomon asked for, pay attention now, verse 9, therefore, give your servant an understanding, or better translated, a listening heart to judge your people. What does that mean? Most times when we tell this story, we say that Solomon asked for wisdom, but Solomon actually asked for a listening heart. You know, plenty of people can be wise. Plenty of people can be smart. But what Solomon was asking for was that he would be able to listen, a listening heart. His heart would be able to listen to the instructions of God. Who's wiser than God? God has infinite knowledge. God knows exactly what to do at the right times. And so what Solomon was asking for was like, can you just help me to just listen to you? As leaders, as team members, as you're dealing with ministry, you might say to yourself, I have no clue what to do. There's one thing that you need. There's only really one thing that you need, and that is to listen. To be an effective leader, you have to learn to listen to the voice of God. Solomon asked that God will help him to have a heart that could listen in order that he may judge the people. If I'm going to rule these people, if I'm going to judge these people, I need to be able to listen to you. If I can listen, then I can understand your will. And understanding heart, a listening heart. Let's read it again, verse 9. Therefore, give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern. Now, look at that word. That I may discern between good and evil. What Solomon wanted was the gift of discernment. And he would get that through the ability to listen. The gift of discernment, as the New Testament puts it, discerning spirits. In other words, discerning minds, discerning the discernment is able to be activated when we listen to the one who knows all things. Help me to have a listening heart that I may judge the people, that I may discern between good and evil. I need to be able to tell what is right and tell what is wrong. He didn't ask to just study books so he can figure it out. He asked, can I be able to listen? A listening heart. I like the fact that he said listening heart and not just listening ears. Because ears is just, you can hear it. And like some people like to say, in one ear and out the other. You could hear something, doesn't mean that you understood it. He doesn't even say listening mind. Because a listening mind is just, well, I understand it. He said a listening or understanding heart. Heart gives that impression of conviction, dedication. The core, your heart is in your core, so it's like central. Let my heart, let my being, let my emotions, let my commitment be listening, tuned in to you. The story of Solomon is so much more than asking for wisdom. He asks for a listening heart so that he could be able to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this people, this great people of yours? He's asking, who on earth can truly rule your people? And he recognizes that he could not do it. Remember, God never wanted the people of Israel to have a king. They asked for a king, and sometimes God gives us exactly what we wish for. So be careful what you wish for. The people of Israel asked for a king, and so God gave them a king. That first king didn't work out too good. Then you had David, and now Solomon. And Solomon recognizes, you know what? I can't do this. I cannot be ruler. I cannot be the leader. I cannot be a good king. Who on earth can judge this great nation? No one. And that's why he recognizes that he can't do it. And that's why he's trusting God to do it. He takes his kingship and he tosses it back to God and says, I'm just going to listen to you. As a leader, there's not much you need to be qualified except that listening heart. If you can allow your heart to be connected to God, then God can guide you into the path that he desires. Let's keep going here. So he wants to discern between good and evil. The Garden of Eden had the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Here he's asking for discernment between good and evil. Yes, we live in a world where evil exists, but we now have to navigate the good and evil. Adam and Eve didn't need the gift of discernment because they were perfect. But now because of sin, we need the gift of discernment. We need a listening heart to be able to go through and figure out between good and evil. Who is able to judge this great people of yours? Can't be me, so I got to listen to you. Verse 10, the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. Then God said to him, because you have asked this thing and have not asked for long life for yourself. Now, that's another big wish that people ask for, right? If a genie were to come to you and said, what do you wish for? One of the wishes might be, can I live forever? Can I live a long time? And God says, you could have asked for long life for yourself. Nor have you asked for riches for yourself. Nor have you asked for the life of your enemies. Some people may wish, God, why don't you just take care of my enemies, take them down? He didn't ask for that. But have asked for yourself understanding to discern justice. Understanding, that word understand, remember, sama, better translated as listening. A listening heart to discern justice. To be able to discern. Solomon was given a rare opportunity to make a wish. He didn't wish for long life. He didn't wish for wealth. He didn't wish for the death of his enemies. He wished for an understanding or a listening heart so he could be able to discern between good and evil. Verse 12, behold, God says, behold, I have done according to your words. Boom, you got it. Wish has been granted. Behold, I have done according to your words. See, I have given you a wise. That's where we get the whole wise thing. When people tell the story of Solomon, they say, well, what did Solomon wish for? He asked for wisdom. He actually didn't say wisdom in this chapter. He asked for a listening heart. But God said, because you asked for that, I will give you a wise and understanding heart. So he gives not just a listening heart, but now also a wise heart. A wise and understanding heart. You might say, what's the difference? But listening means that you don't rely on your own wisdom. Solomon said in Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Remember, the listening heart. Lean not on your own understanding, like your own mind. In all your ways, acknowledge him. He will direct your path. It's as simple as that. As a leader, yes, you want wisdom. You want to be smart. You want to have good ideas, but you cannot lean on your own understanding. As wise as you may be, you have to have a listening heart that could trust in God. And so God says, I'm going to give you both. I'm going to give you wisdom and an understanding heart, so that there has not been anyone like you before, nor shall any like you arise after you. God says there never has been, there never will be someone as wise as you. Someone with wisdom and understanding or a listening heart. Solomon asked for an understanding heart. God says, you will be able to be the wisest person who ever lived, and no one born after you will ever hit and touch you at that level. Verse 13. Oh, and I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be anyone like you among the kings all your days. You didn't ask for riches, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. You're going to be the richest man that ever lived, or at least in that time period. So if you walk in my ways, there was a stipulation. There was a stipulation here. So if you walk in my ways and keep my statutes and my commandments as your father David walked, then I would lengthen your days. You didn't ask for a long life, but I'm going to give it to you if you continue in this path. Then Solomon awoke And indeed, it had been a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, offered up burnt offerings, offered peace offerings, and made a feast for all his servants. And that's when it goes into the story where Solomon has his first big trial, where those ladies had a child that died, and another child wasn't dead, and he was able to figure it out and be able to use good discernment because he had a listening heart. Solomon asks for a listening heart. Kind of similar to the Gospels. You know, the Gospels has Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All four Gospels talk about the same story, but in different ways. And by the way, if you haven't had a chance to go through the Mark series that I did a series on my website, waynejamel.com. If you click on that, you could see that there's some devotions on the book of Mark, and I encourage you to go check it out. But just like how Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all tell the same story, we also have here where the book of Kings and the book of Chronicles are two different books that tell the same story from different perspectives. So let's look at the same story in First Chronicles. First Chronicles. So it's one book, it's two books over. So you have First Kings, Second Kings, now First Chronicles. First Chronicles, chapter 1. Sorry, Second Chronicles, chapter 1. Second Chronicles, chapter 1. So this chapter here is parallel with what we read in Kings. So Second Chronicles, chapter 1, verse 10. So it's the same story here. So we can actually back up a little bit. We could look at verse 7. On that night, God appeared to Solomon and said to him, ask what I shall give you. And Solomon said to God, you have shown great mercy to David, my father, and have made me king in his place. Now, O Lord God, let your promise to David, my father, but not. Verse 10. Now give me wisdom and knowledge that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this people, this great people of yours? So Solomon asks for wisdom. But if you just look at the story as just wisdom, you miss a key element. He asks also for that understanding that comes through a listening heart. You can get understanding. You can know what to do if you can listen, like the book of Kings pointed out. So Solomon asks for those things: wisdom, knowledge, understanding or listening heart. That's so important for us as leaders, as team members, to be able to seek this wisdom, to seek the wisdom that doesn't just come from book knowledge or street smarts, but also a wisdom and understanding that comes from listening to God. Solomon gives some of this wisdom in the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs is considered one of the wisdom literatures. And in Proverbs chapter 4, Solomon is now older, and Solomon wants to impart this knowledge, this wisdom, this advice to his children. Proverbs chapter 4 says, hear, my children, the instruction of a father. Listen to me. I'm your dad. Listen to me. And give attention to know understanding. Here you go with that word understanding again. That word understanding. Now, this word for understanding here is the idea that you standing. It's a combination. Remember, we just read it in Second Chronicles chapter 1, verse 10. Solomon asks for not just wisdom, but also for understanding. Wisdom, yes, you're wise, you're smart, but understanding, that word understanding means in Hebrew discernment. Get wisdom. Get discernment. That comes from that listening heart. So he's telling this to his children now. He learned that lesson. He was able to do it. Now he's telling his children, you guys got to do it too. Get wisdom. Get understanding. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her. Now he kind of describes this gift of wisdom and discernment as a woman. He says, do not forsake her. She will preserve you. She'll keep you good and alive. Love her, and she will keep you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Yeah, wisdom is good. Wisdom, to have wisdom. Now, the book of Proverbs talks a lot about wisdom and how important it is. Wisdom is a principal thing, foundational thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. I know it sounds like it's confusing because wisdom, understanding sounds like it's the same thing, but that's why I'm telling you what the Hebrew word means. The word for understanding means discernment. So while you're getting wisdom, while you're at it, get discernment. But where does discernment come from? Solomon said it. He said it in Kings, in 1 Kings chapter 3. He says, a listening heart is what gives discernment. So here, he's telling them, their wisdom is a principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. Everybody needs wisdom. And all you're getting, you better get understanding too. You better get discernment. Exalt her, and she will promote you. She will bring you honor when you embrace her. She will place on your head an ornament of grace. That's like a tiara. A crown of glory she will deliver to you. Yes, wisdom and discernment will place on your head something like a tiara and a crown. It'll give you that majesticness, that regalness. Solomon was a king, and his children would also be royalty. But he's saying the real crown, you better get that from wisdom and discernment. It says here, hear my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of your life will be many. Kind of like how God told Solomon, if you follow my way, if you can maintain that listening heart, your days will be longer. He's saying to him, if you want many days, you gotta listen to what I'm saying. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in the right paths. You see, Solomon was teaching his children wisdom. You could teach wisdom because that's like a head thing, but you can't teach discernment. That's why he says wisdom is a principal thing. But while you're getting wisdom, you better also get discernment. He says, I taught you that. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in the right paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hindered. When you run, you will not stumble. Take firm hold of instruction and do not let go. Keep her, for she is your life. Talking about wisdom and discernment, like a woman, keep her, for she is your life. Treat her like a woman. Take care of her. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it and do not travel it. Turn away from it and pass on, for they do not sleep unless they have done evil. The wicked just love doing wickedness, evilness. They won't even go to bed unless they did something wrong. For their sleep is taken away unless they make someone fall. Some people that are so wicked, they lose sleep if they don't hurt somebody. For they eat bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is like the shining sun that shines ever brighter unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. They don't even realize what's messing them up. My son, remember, this one is going to become king one day. He's telling him, my son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Remember the listening? listen to what I'm saying. He can't make them listen to God, but he's trying to tell them, you at least listen to me. Incline your ears to my saying. Do not let them depart from your eyes. Keep them in the midst of your heart. Hold them dear, for they are life to those who find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. Put away from you the deceitful mouth. Get rid of the lying, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look straight ahead, and let your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet. Pay attention to where you're walking. Ponder the path of your feet. Think about it. Think before you walk, and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil. In a little bit, we're going to be going into a brainstorming session in your teams. But when you do, I want you to think about that verse which says, ponder the path of your feet. Don't just start moving as a ministry without thinking about it, without taking time to listen to how God is going to instruct you on how to move. Solomon was a wise man. We know that his history, he stopped listening to God, and he really messed up. Listening and discernment is only as good as you activate it. And then when we jump over to the New Testament in the book of James, James takes this concept, and because the book of James is all about practicality. All right, take all this theology, take all this philosophy, and let's make it practical. So let's make it practical with the book of James, chapter 1. James chapter 1. James chapter 1. And feel free to read the book of James. It has a lot of good stuff in it in terms of practical Christianity. But I want to look at one verse in particular dealing with this concept of wisdom. And chapter 1, verse 5, it says, if any of you lack wisdom. Now, some people might say, well, Solomon asked for wisdom. He got wisdom. He asked for understanding. He got understanding, that discerning heart. He asked for a listening heart. He was able to listen. But maybe I'm not that wise. Maybe I'm not that smart. James says, if anybody here lacks wisdom, here's his advice. Let him ask of God. James' very practical advice is actually pretty simple. If you don't have wisdom, just ask. Just like how Solomon asked for wisdom, you can ask for wisdom. Just like how Solomon asked for discernment, you can ask for discernment. Just like how Solomon asked for a heart that would listen, you can ask for a heart that listens. That's as practical as we can make it. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, without shame, without being stingy, or without trying to censor you. God is not interested in that. He's going to give liberally, and it will be given to him. God wants to give you plenty of wisdom. You just got to ask. Let him ask in faith with no doubting. So what is faith? I said it before many times. Faith is when you trust in God. Let him ask, trusting. Remember, that's why wind just blows you in whatever the wind's direction is going. I am trusting in God. I am zeroed in on God. God, you are my guide. But if you are not focused on him, if you're doubting means you're straying your mind. If you're straying your mind or your focus away from God, it says you are a double-minded man, unstable in all your ways. Solomon started off with a listening heart, but he got double-minded. I would say quadruple-minded, gazillion-minded. He started marrying everything he could see because he didn't maintain that faith, that trust in God. You could be a leader today, but if you don't maintain that trust in God, then you become unstable in all your ways. You'll be all over the place. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. So let's go back to the book of Proverbs and see what Solomon had to say back when he was, at a time when he was still listening to God. Proverbs chapter 16. Proverbs chapter 16 says, Proverbs chapter 16 verse 2 says, all the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes. You know, whatever you do, you're like, I had a good reason. I had my reason. Everybody in their own brain thinks they did the right thing. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirits. In other words, the Lord, discerning of spirits, the Lord is able to discern. The Lord knows the truth. He knows the heart. He knows the mind. He knows your motives. So that's why Solomon says this. Commit your works to the Lord, and your thoughts will be established. You're going to come up with some plans. You're going to brainstorm in just a moment. And you're brainstorming. Listen to God so he can direct you. And as you allow God to direct your thoughts, God will establish your thoughts. Your thoughts will become reality if it's being directed by God. So allow God to direct your path. Lord God, I want to thank you that you want to guide us. You have plans for us. I pray that our wish will be for wisdom. Give us wisdom. Let us be smart. Let us be wise. But also, Lord, give us understanding. Or in other words, give us discernment. So yes, give us a lot of knowledge. Let us know a lot of things. Let us be wise. But Lord, also give us discernment to know between right and wrong. And God, I pray that all of that will come because you give us a heart transplant, a heart that listens to you. I pray for this, God, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Right now, we're going to have a special song. We're going to collect offering as we have this song, after which, I don't want you to leave. Please don't leave. After which, we are going to go into, we usually have a discussion after the sermon, but today the discussion will be in your ministry groups. So AV team, please get the slide up where it has all the ministries and who's in what ministry. Put that on the screen there as the song is being played.